Okay, I'm sure people will continue to join as we go along, but right now I'd like to introduce you to Stuart Nicholls, the founder of StratumFive, who's going to make some opening remarks about just about why we're here.
Welcome everybody, and thank you to our first Podium Connected Community Conference. A lot of people have asked why we're doing this, and I think it was an obligation for us as a platform developer to ensure that we're exposing our community solution providers and ensuring that the ship owners understand the power of the Podium platform. Why did we build Podium, and why did we build it the way that we did? We felt that it is not in the interest of the ship owner to be the jack of all when it comes to the digital journey. And we also believe that you should be the master of one solution. And therefore, we saw the opportunity 3 or 4 years ago that the best way forward to give the ship owner the freedom of choice was to build a platform that allowed integrations with any connected solution provider. We're on a digital evolution, not a digital revolution. And ship owners need to be free of the opportunities that are available to them and their specific operations. And there is many people with fantastic solutions that we feel need to be able to focus on their specific disciplines. Ours was software. Ours was the presentation of the data and allowing that data to be presented in a reasonable fashion for the ship owner to make good decisions from. We also saw that it was not our skill set to look at the data collection on board the ship. And there's many people out there that do fantastic jobs. So that was the ethos behind the development of Podium, to ensure that all the stakeholders in the digital evolution were working together and not against, and making a frictionless relationship. So today we're really proud to bring together all of the stakeholders in this, what is an exciting time in the industry, but certainly not a revolution. And what we want to showcase today is how ship owners can make decisions on how they collect their data, who they collect their data with, and then how that can be stored, presented, calculated, and exported in a simple fashion. We're not going to be perfect today, that is for sure, but it is the first time we've done this, and we are making the effort to bring together all the stakeholders. We are going to ensure that we improve today, and to ensure that we do improve, we've got to have everybody communicating. So I understand that this is quite a different format, and hopefully everyone's been used to now with COVID, Zoom and all these other opportunities to collaborate. And I know it can be uncomfortable, and we all prefer to be together, and we do want to be together in the future, but really the first steps are baby steps, and we want to see if this is a benefit to you, the solution providers, the platform, and the ship owners as well. So your feedback is greatly appreciated during and after the event. And I'm quite excited to hand over to the CEO, who's going to start the day, and then listen to how our connected community responds to the feedback that we're getting from the ship owners. So please feel free to jump in and ask questions as we go along. And I'm excited to hand over to Ross, the CEO, who's going to start the ball rolling. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning to everybody. Hopefully you can hear me okay. So my intention, first of all, is just to give you, before we hand over to our connected community partners, a brief overview for those that haven't already received one, in terms of what Podium itself is all about. And then our connected community partners will take over in terms of talking about their own respective solutions and what that can provide end to end when integrated with Podium. And really, this will just be a brief high-level contextual overview of the purpose and the unique features of the platform, and then we'll move on to a short live demonstration. The first few slides of this presentation highlight what we see as the fundamental challenges with the current state of maritime digitalisation. And then I'll move on to how Podium actually assists our clients in solving these challenges. The first challenge is the sheer volume and variety of data that our clients are contending with, and how to maximize the benefit and insight that can be generated from it. I'm sure there are a lot of different stats floating around, but one that we have here is that a single vessel generates over 20 gigabytes of data per day. The second challenge, as we see it, is the sheer number of siloed solutions that are typically in use within an organization. So usually key daily tasks require a wide range of separate logins to disconnected, inconsistent, sometimes even contradictory solutions, most of which will also be missing key data sources that are really necessary to bring that big picture view and the necessary context to the content. The outcome of the scenario that I've just described is what we would label as a disconnected operator. And the visual on my screen now represents users having to access a number of separate siloed solutions, which in reality are all interrelated in terms of establishing the overall situational awareness required for efficient and effective operations. By contrast, Podium is the platform for the connected operator. So this is all about bringing all of those relevant data sources and metrics together into one scalable platform. A platform that can handle that volume and that variety, and synchronizing all of that data in time and space for easier assessment, anomaly detection, real-time event notifications, and that kind of thing. Podium also enables the user to build any number of bespoke dashboards to suit the roles and responsibilities of any individual operator or any department within the company. A connected operator needs connected applications. So while the user can create these bespoke dashboards that I just described to suit any particular use case or challenge that they might be facing, Podium also covers a wide range of what I would describe as core functional applications. So this includes the things you're seeing on the screen now: tracking, security, routing, forecasting, charter party compliance, vessel performance, and emissions. As mentioned on the slide, on my screen right now, we also frequently encounter clients that are trying to extract insight from all of this data using generic business intelligence tools, which lack the domain-specific functionality and the degree of automation to make smarter operational decisions faster. Connected applications, in turn, need connected and correlated data. So this is essentially the synchronization in time and space that I referred to previously. What we're doing here is bringing in a range of disparate data sources into a single timeline architecture, which enables us to generate new metrics as well from our own algorithms and to correlate those, which adds further to the insight that we can provide within Podium. This slide is in reference to the unique level of configurability and the bespoke dashboards that I mentioned. I think this will be best illustrated in the live demonstration that I'll move on to in a few minutes. But essentially, we are well aware and accepting of the fact that the needs and wishes of each individual client and each user within an organization are different. So we've not been overly opinionated or rigid in how we've architected the front end of the platform. Instead, we allow the user to tailor custom solutions to best suit his or her needs from a library of discrete components and capabilities. In addition to all of the shoreside data holdings that we have, things like the weather and sea state model data, there are really three key shipside data types that we would typically expect to integrate to Podium. The first is positional data. The position and speed of the vessel really serve as a backbone for the majority of the more complex analytics, algorithms, and different use cases of the platform. We have a significant heritage in vessel tracking, and one of the unique details of our approach on this alone is the sheer number of positional data sources that we're able to integrate. And that's really about providing the maximum continuity and granularity. So you'll very often see solutions in the marketplace that rely solely on AIS, for example. But as mentioned on this slide, there are issues with that I'm sure we're all well aware of. So we will integrate every source that we can get our hands on, combine all of those to a single track from which we can build for the more complex requirements. The next data type that we typically require from the ship, certainly for the more sophisticated functionality within Podium, is the vessel noon reports and the other report types, the other voyage report types. For this, we have our own Podium Onboard companion application for data entry, which uses unique progressive web technology. And this enables full offline functionality, despite the platform being hosted in the web browser. I will show this briefly when we move over to the live demo. But we're also able to accommodate the majority of legacy formats that our clients might be using at the time of subscription. So if for any reason they don't wish to take advantage of our dedicated onboard solution for noon report integration, we can typically integrate what they already have. The third type of shipside data that it's beneficial to integrate to Podium is the high frequency sensor data. And our strategy here is to be completely agnostic to the solutions chosen by our clients through the integration partnerships with the Podium connected community partners, some of which you'll be hearing from today. It is possibly also worth mentioning that integration of this telemetry data, high frequency sensor data, is not a prerequisite for a Podium subscription. All of the core functionality that we've built within the platform will function completely with or without that high frequency sensor data. But these type of integrations do, of course, bring opportunity for more precision, more granularity, and more data at your fingertips. To finish up with the presentation before I move to the live demo of the platform in the real world, I've got a quick high-level summary of the core applications, the kind of functional verticals. As I previously mentioned, the level of configurability within Podium actually enables users to fulfill requirements outside of those listed on my screen. So these should really be seen as example use cases and kind of core categories of the functionality that we've built. So the first of these is the tracking, which I did speak about already. So Podium provides the ultimate near real-time shoreside monitoring, and that's the multiple sources that I was talking about previously. A couple of screenshots there of the sheer level of detail within the platform itself. And then a slide which just expands on the functionality that we consider to come within that particular tracking module. So you'll see a list on the right-hand side there of the type of capabilities or some of the capabilities of the platform in the tracking category. Next, we have the security. Now, of course, we have significant heritage and reputation in this area as a manufacturer of ship security alert systems, and it is the case that many of the world's largest and most notable fleets utilize our services for this purpose exclusively. It's not the case that a vessel has to have our own ship security alert system on board to take advantage of all of this. We can also integrate, again, we're agnostic to third-party systems. And the security module also includes other capabilities such as piracy intelligence reports and high-risk area geofences and more. The next module is the routing. So I'm not sure if all of the attendees will be aware that 3-4 years ago now, StratumFive acquired Fleetweather in the US, which has over 50 years of heritage providing weather routing services to the commercial maritime industry. And one of the reasons that we began building Podium was that we needed a new platform to accommodate the services of both entities following the acquisition as we brought the companies and solutions together. On the screen, you'll see quite a nice KPI that I've just been given in terms of the return on investment for our weather routing clients. So this year to date alone, we've generated over $6 million of accumulative savings for the subscribers, which also comprises emissions reductions of 10,000 metric tons and 4,000 metric tons of fuel savings, and fully integrated to the Podium platform. You'll see there in the screenshots, we have differentiation between the ship side outputs. So those are the advisories that go directly to the master, and then the shore side views within the Podium platform. And again, a bit more of a granular breakdown of the type of capabilities that are included within that module on the right-hand side. Next is the forecasting. Again, ship side advisories tailored specifically to that particular vessel with en route forecasts based on the expected positions of the vessel ahead of time, all of the key weather parameters, tables for seakeeping warnings, things like parametric and synchronous rolling, and then of course the shore side views within the Podium platform as well of all of the applicable data, with all of that ability to customize the views, build different alert logic to suit the wishes of the individual user. And again, this slightly more granular breakdown of what's included in the forecasting module to the right-hand side. Charter party compliance. So this is something that for most of our clients has previously required complex analysis and population of spreadsheets. And it's now fully automated within Podium. And this gives the ability to continuously monitor the voyage performance in relation to the terms of the charter party, which can be configured by the user within the platform as well. So this is quite a significant step forward for the majority of our clients. We do also have, outside of that automated product within the Podium platform, the dedicated claims team as part of the fleet weather service as well. So we have that kind of human analytical approach if required, in addition to the automated solution. And then vessel performance. So of course, this is all about enabling informed decisions that can save fuel, reduce emissions and lower operational costs. And I'm sure you're all familiar with the type of functionality that vessel performance would usually be describing, but a breakdown on the right-hand side there of the current capabilities within Podium. Emissions. So this is our newest release, the newest addition to the modules. And we have a comprehensive Podium emissions module, which covers all of the recording, calculation, and reporting requirements for CII, EU and UK MRV, DCS, and Sea Cargo Charter. And on the right side again, a bit more of a detailed breakdown. I'll move to a live demo just to show you what the platform looks like in the real world. It's not my intention to go into great detail and show absolutely everything that I've detailed on the slides there. But of course, if any of the attendees wish to receive a more detailed demonstration tailored to your specific requirements, then please do make yourself known in the Q&A, and we'll have one of our client managers reach out to you. But this is the Podium platform. So the fundamental capabilities, and the most important thing to emphasize, first of all, is that this particular dashboard on my screen is an example. So I mentioned several times during the slide presentation that the user has full control over what they wish to see and building their bespoke solutions. If we actually had more time today, we could have started with a completely blank screen and built a dashboard together. And to do that, we would use this add card button to the right side here. So a card is each one of these discrete rectangular components that you see on my screen. We can start with a blank page and we can just build it according to the requirement. And the cards also give this full control over the layout of the dashboard, the positioning, drag and drop, resizing, and that kind of thing. And then within each one of these card components, you also have full control over the data you wish to populate it with. So if we take this time series graph as an example and go into the settings here, you'll see we have this metric selector with a range of different metric categories of integrated data. And from within this, I've chosen to display on this particular graph one of the integrated sensor metrics, one of the metocean metrics, and two of our calculated metrics. So the calculated category, this is all of the proprietary logic that we have in the back end of the Podium platform. Examples such as our ability to determine the current speed loss due to hull fouling, Then the metocean category. So this is, of course, all of your weather and sea state model data. The reported data. This is the integration of noon reports and such like that I described during the slides. So this will dynamically kind of update to show the range of metrics and fields that are being reported by the particular client in their noon reports, and give you direct and immediate access to this within the shoreside platform. And then the sensor data integration. So of course, our partners will be talking more about their respective capabilities in this area and what they're able to integrate in the later sessions today, but that's all accessible here as well. So in this case, I've just chosen metrics from across a range of categories and placed them onto this time series graph. Now, the next thing to note, I spoke quite a bit in the presentation about synchronization in time and space and this timeline architecture, and that's quite easily illustrated here. You'll see that as I hover my mouse cursor over this time series graph, everything else is on this particular view is updating to give an instantaneous value for that specific moment in time. And the same applies on the chart display. The vessel position is moving. All of the high resolution weather overlays are moving as well. And we could focus this entire view on any period of history, in fact, past, present, or future, for things like the weather forecast data where we have that future awareness, and it will behave the same way. So even if I focus this view on 2 months of data from 2 years ago, as far as we know, it's unique to Podium that you'll still have things like this high resolution weather data, as well as your telemetry data, your noon report data, the output from our performance calculations for any of those periods, with all of this harmonization and synchronization. I'll touch on just a couple more specific examples. I mentioned that it's not a prerequisite to have the telemetry data to get the most from the functionality within Podium. A good demonstration of that point is if we look at the speed and consumption card, which is of course plotting the main engine consumption on the y-axis and the speed on the x. If we go into the card settings here, you'll see that we can choose our data source. So this could either be main engine consumptions derived from an integrated noon report or an integrated flow meter. If the client has both integrated to the Podium platform, then of course they can toggle between and use either or. And in this particular case, this example is just configured using main engine consumption derived from a noon report, the corresponding speed for that same noon to noon period on the x-axis derived from all of those multiple different sources of tracking data. And then we can apply our algorithms to normalize that, to remove all of the variables and give you a true measure of what that ship is consuming at a given speed. Once you've taken out the impact of the currents, wind and waves, wind, waves, and displacement, and then compare that with any number of other vessels from the fleet, or any number of historical date ranges for the same vessel. This particular card here might not look like the most exciting component on the screen because it's there's no data applicable right now, but this is also one of the most powerful capabilities of the platform, is what we describe as vessel rules. So I talked about event notifications during my presentation. And essentially the way this works, we have a rule engine underpinning everything that we see in the platform. And all of these metrics that I've already detailed are available to that rule engine. And this enables the user to build your own business logic, essentially using any combination of conditions across any combination of these data sources and any combination of metrics within each data source. And what we'll see here when we're looking at this view over time within a dashboard is any period within which those combinations of conditions were met. So in this particular example, you see that there's a low speed alert, an adverse weather alert, a hull fouling alert, and a post-dry dock speed monitoring alert. But again, all completely configurable by the user. So just to detail how we would do that, I go into my configure screen here, and you see that we can add a new rule. We can call this whatever we wish. We can specify whether we wish to receive real-time notifications as and when the condition becomes applicable. the combination of conditions becomes applicable, or just receive periodic summaries at a specified interval. We can choose that interval. We can choose how many recipients should receive that notification. And of course, we need to add the conditions themselves. So here we can set thresholds on any of those metrics from any of those data sources that we've correlated. It could be perhaps above, below, that kind of thing. So again, this same common component, this library of integrated data, which could be calculated by us. It could be MetOcean model data. It could be Noon report data. It could be sensor data, and so on. And we can choose the applicable parameter. And then we can specify whether we're interested to know when the actual value is above, below, equal to, and so on, any value that you wish to define. And then we can add another condition on top of that, and another condition on top of that, and so on and so on. One of the other options here was geozones. So perhaps you're only interested to know that the consumption is above X if the vessel is inside a particular area. And perhaps you're only interested to know if the condition is above, the consumption is above X when the vessel is at a particular speed and the vessel is in a certain area and the weather conditions are, let's say, good. So you could use this to define your good weather criteria from a charter party, for example. So infinite capabilities there. I only showed one view so far in terms of these configurable dashboards. But you see that we have these categories here, and the user can create any number of different views in any number of different categories. I'll touch on one or two more just to really illustrate the point. In this particular account, you'll see that we have quite a lot, so 15 different dashboards configured, but there is no limit to that. This is the one we were looking at previously. But if perhaps we wish to go into a dashboard that's just focused on weather, this one's slightly different. It's less of a deep dive on an individual vessel and has a number of vessels in focus and has been configured by a member of our meteorological team just to show a number of different key warnings and alerts in relation to weather. So you'll see the same fundamental capabilities apply. We still have the synchronization in time and space, regardless of how many vessels are on the particular dashboard view. And then again, user configured rules in all of these cards. So some parameters have been chosen, some metric thresholds have been applied, significant wave height greater than or equal to 4 meters, wind speed greater than or equal to 25 knots, visibility, and so on. What we'll see is these red visual indications whenever any of those thresholds are breached. If I just move back to the views library here, and let's go into the performance category. And now we'll see a dashboard that's been configured by one of our marine engineers from a marine engineer's perspective of the KPIs and insight that he would most like to see. So here we have graphed auxiliary engine and main engine daily consumptions, different fuel grades, extracted versus actual speeds, main engine load and RPM, propeller slip and speed loss due to fouling, speed and consumption profiles again, and so on. And then perhaps we wish to look at performance in relation to a charter party. So instead of looking at the speed loss due to fouling and the more technical aspects of vessel performance, we can also look at compliance with those contractual terms. So I've just chosen a recent voyage and a vessel at random in this example. And what we now see is that automated charter party compliance report that I described in the presentation. At the top, we have a track line for this particular voyage as defined by the user, color coded to show green periods of track, which represent the good weather periods as defined in the charter party. Red would be the bad weather periods, and purple would be any omitted periods from that report. Underneath, we have this voyage performance overview in relation to the charter party on an all weather and good weather basis. And we have the ability to drill down into any of these noon to noon periods and see all of the specific data and choose to remove that particular noon to noon period from the voyage level report for a variety of different reasons. This can also, I mentioned in the presentation that when we first start speaking to a prospective Podium client, they're assessing performance in relation to charter party in quite complex, labor-intensive ways, having to pull data from lots of different places and run manual calculations. This is all, of course, taking place automatically here, but we're aware that you might then want to work with this in a spreadsheet format. So we can also download this to Excel, and it comes down like this example I'm showing on the screen now. So again, we have all of the noon to noon periods, all of the weather and current factors, consumption values, and so on. And beneath all of this, we have the warranted period overview on a good weather and all weather basis. I also promised that I would show the onboard companion application, Podium Onboard, which can be used for the Noon report integrations. So I'll go there now. So we're now on the ship, and as I briefly mentioned, what's unique about this solution is that it lives in the web browser, but it doesn't require continuous internet connectivity. So it's built using this progressive web technology. If I wasn't presenting this to you online right now, I would turn off my internet to prove this point, and all we would see is this icon in the top right corner of the screen would go red, but that doesn't stop continued population of all of these fields on board and submission of the report. And then what happens is in the background, the next time there is an internet connection on board, it will just automatically synchronize in the background both ways, meaning any data that's been entered into these forms will be immediately reflected in the Podium platform, shoreside, and any changes made to these forms, shoreside, for example, immediately reflected on board without any action required. And I wonder if that's possibly sufficient for today's purposes, but as I say, if anybody would like a more detailed demonstration of this from one of our client managers, please do make it known.
Okay, thanks very much, Ross. Thanks for that brief tour of Podium's capabilities. We're running a little ahead of schedule, which is quite kind of good. I think one of the things about Podium, so you've seen, an extremely sophisticated voyage analytics, voyage informatics platform, and you've also seen that it can be populated with sort of noon report data, and it can do a job on relatively little of the available information. I think one of our concerns about this, and Stuart and I are both ex-mariners, and we've got an ex-marine engineer in there, and our concern or our worry is that we're asking the ship's crew to produce more and more of the data points that we need to populate the platform so that it can do a good job. And of course, I think there's some hesitance on the part of the industry to adopt the solutions that will make that job easier, will make it more accurate, will deliver greater granularity. So this is one of the reasons why the connected community was created, was to demonstrate to the industry that it isn't all that difficult to get those extra data points. They can be exploited within a voyage informatics platform and do an even better job of generating the efficiencies in near real time. Because at the end of the day, a noon report is one data point in 24 hours. And so if we can do better than that across a range of metrics, the outcomes will be better. We will be alerted earlier to things that are not conforming, and we're able to respond quicker. So we will generate greater efficiency through being more aware of what goes on. So what we wanted to do was to take you on a small digitalization journey, if you like. And we're going to begin with, if you think about the Noon report, which has been around for hundreds of years at least, one data point. What else is going on the ship that we can use an existing process, existing equipment, and can we digitalize anything that a ship's already doing to provide those extra data points? So we set up this first panel to deal with things such as electronic logbooks, oil record books, some of the compliance stuff that the ships have to fill in anyway, statements of facts, port logs, and then also providers that can turn analog signals into digital signals, so therefore avoiding the expense of ripping out equipment and replacing hardware on board the ship. So the first stage of this digitalization journey is taking those manual processes that the ships are actually doing anyway, and adding them to the platform to provide greater detail and granularity. So I think first up is going to be Raytheon Anschütz, and they're going to describe an electronic logbook solution that they've co-developed. It's already been integrated into the Podium5 platform, and also we will then move on to SOP Exchange, and who were very key and instrumental in that integration taking place, and then finally EyeGauge. So if I could ask Raytheon Anschütz to, if they're already a panelist, and to share their screen. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you very much to Mike. He introduced me, and I was just sharing my screen. I hope everybody is able to see now the presentation. Is this correct? Okay, my name is Bjoern Schroeder. I'm really happy to be introduced by Mike, and I'm happy here to show you something about the eLog, which is completely interconnected together with Podium5. So all the data we gathered here is also available on the Podium5 server and on the cloud. So everybody talks about the digitalisation, but regarding the logbook, it still works on paper. So we found out that very rare it is already used in an electronic logbook. It's very common to use a paper logbook. And therefore, we started over to make this complete logbook in an electronic way, and also the possibility to gather more data, not only from the bridge system like a VDR, but also include all the available decision and events that might happen on the ship. And you can use completely your own device, if it's a panel PC, or if it's a notebook, or even down to you have your own smartphone. Everything is here integrated together with the SOP Exchange and Podium5. So the eLog becomes here really a source of the original and really unmodified data in real time from board. So nobody will be able to tweak this data. It's gathered directly from the bridge, and in the worst case, people will have their own data here integrated. So the decisions and the events that are happening on board are inside this here as well. We have totally reduced the cost and risk regarding paper logbooks. So it's much less than you could expect from an e-logbook now, because you don't have to handle these paper-based books. You don't have to store them. You can have the data available, like it's shown here by Martin. Every time you log into, you have all the data available. And if you want to really have a look at how easy it is to use this one, I would refer you to our website. It's raytheonanschütz.com. There we have a free demo of the software. You can try it for your own and see really how easy it is. When you really decide and said, okay, I would like to go with an eLog here, then we have all the necessary hard and software for you that is necessary here to change over from a paper logbook to an electronic logbook. And this one is not only type approved and it's completely certified by DNV-GL, it is also approved by multiple flag states. And we are working on more and more flag states to get these accepting the electronic logbook. We will do regularly software updates of additional features via the cloud. And all the data and decisions done on board is completely tamper-proof. So we are certified here. It's absolutely no problem. And you can bring your own device, either PC, laptop, tablet, smartphone, whatever. to do all the additional inputs by the crew. Features at the moment, it's available deck logbook, bellbook, noon report, cloud update, and interface for StratumFive for sure. And from the beginning of next year, available will, on top of this one, a complete report wizard. You can create your own reports. We are able to do data uploads when you want to have additional data. For example, scan documents in the logbook. You will have the engine record book, garbage, oil, and the harbor towage book. This will be all available from January 2023. That's it. That was my 5 minutes. So I would give back to Mike, and looking forward to see the others doing the presentation. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Bjoern. That's a great presentation. And if you think about it, just that as somebody who's filled in many logbooks over many years, being able to exploit that data and use the logbook as effectively as a sensor and a source of information that we can plug into Podium is a massive step forward in terms of exploiting work that's already being done. We're not asking for any additional reporting there. This is work that has to be done anyway, and we're simply applying it to the issues of performance and efficiency. So one of the other areas, of course, so all of that works really well when you're at sea, and I think that voyage component. But the next thing, of course, is port events, and which are amazingly sort of valuable and perhaps an area of analytics that we haven't really exploited sufficiently yet. We get a lot of data around tracking data that we can say, well, a port call takes about this time, and this is about what happened when we're there. But if you really want to get into the detail of that, and certainly there is a lot of detail required when it comes to invoicing and claims and for a particular port performance, then it's all about something called the statement of facts. And we've had one of our very earliest integrations was with Soft Exchange, and Adrian Challinor is with us now to describe that solution and why digitizing the port statement of facts makes sense. Adrian, are you ready to present?
I am indeed. Just right. I think my slides come up. The statement of facts is required every time a vessel goes into port or to load or discharge cargo. We've looked at port calls around the world generating statements of facts, and we think there's over 800,000 of them. So whatever this is, it's not a small problem, but it's a problem with no standardization, no collaboration, no optimization. The statements of facts are delivered in any format that the end user desires. Actually, it's the port agent who normally generates the statement of facts. They can be in any format they like. They can come as PDF, they can come as Excel, they can come as handwritten faxes, which we've seen in the past. All of which makes it extremely difficult to actually use the information, just to enter it into a laytime calculator, but also to mine that information, to find out why it takes so long at certain ports, why we get demurrage at certain ports. But this information is not just needed by the ship owner in order to generate laytime calculations. It's needed by the charterer, who will validate the owner's calculation, but also will issue their calculations to the cargo receiver and cargo consigner. And in turn, those people, if they've bought and sold cargoes going on and off on board the vessel, will have to do their own calculations. So a simple statement of facts can be used on average more than 5 times in its history. So having a digital statement of facts makes this a much easier document to share, to mine, to approve. And what we've got is a system where port agents, masters and inspectors collaborate on a single copy of the data in the port. They can see any discrepancies as they occur and they can be dealt with, all of which means that by the time the data comes to the shore in real time, the shore can know that any form of that, well, first of all, they'll only get one copy of a statement of facts and not 3 or 4 different versions. And they'll know that any discrepancies have been eliminated and signed off, or that letters of protest have been issued. It's all web-based, so there's 0 code to load. It's free for the port agent, the master, the inspectors, the surveyors. Those are people who will fill this data in. They're not expected to contribute to the cost. It's only charged to the people who download the statement of facts to make commercial use of it. And they can download it as many times as they like and in any format. We guarantee that we will produce the format that your laytime system or your reporting system requires. We'll produce any number of formats. We will do that for Pacific systems, but we've got also integrations with tools like Hubsy for their laytime calculator. And of course, these documents have to be signed, so we support both digital and the traditional wet signatures. Additional features, as Bjoern's talked about, we have the integration with the deck log. And in the trials that we performed when we were doing this integration, we managed to do a complete statement of facts purely based on data that was entered in the deck log. So the charterer, the agent only had to sign off the events. The master had to do no work whatsoever. And that appeared automatically in the statement of facts at the laytime analyst's desk. We also have a feature called Smart Laytime Events. These are ones that help if it is being filled in manually, Smart Laytime Events predict the next most likely event to occur in the progress through the port. And those can be chosen with single button clicks, entering the information. If it's entering a period, it will enter the start and the expected end time, which can be just completed with yet one more single click. The system is fully aware of local port dates and times. It's fully aware of daylight saving time changes and will produce information that the daylight saving time changed during the life of the port call. Integrating into this, we also have a demurrage exchange, which builds on the statement of facts as it's generated. It's a fully featured demurrage calculator. We don't insist that you use it. You can use your own demurrage calculator should you wish, but we know that a lot of these have restrictions. Ours doesn't. It's extremely fast. It's extremely flexible. And the one that you're just seeing here is a single load at Ras Tanura with 7 discharges to 6 different entities, and it can produce in one go the laytime statement for each of those counterparts. So it's very much a charterer's view of how parceling should happen. Thank you very much. That, I think, is my 5 minutes over.
Thank you, Adrian. That's really helpful. And I just think yet another example of the advantages of digitizing what we already have. So I think, again, as a former operations head of commercial operations for some significant tanker fleets, the savings of time and expense around digitizing this particular component is something I'm very excited about. I think we should expect better industry take-up of these kind of solutions. It just saves so much grief, both at the sort of data entry side and then the dealing with the idea of the process, the commercial voyage process. So thanks, Adrian, very much for that. I would remind the participants that the Q&A is open. Put something in the chat or in the Q&A, and there will be a Q&A session right at the end of all this. But to sort of complete this particular onboard component about the existing processes and how we digitize the legacy and exploit the legacy processes to our advantage. We now have, I think it's got Anton from another early integration. We're big fans of startups and good ideas and new tech in StratumFive. And so welcome Anton from EyeGauge, who's going to tell you something about their solution and how we can change, go digital with little expense. Thank you very much, Anton.
Thank you very much, Mike. Please let me know if you can see my screen.
We can.
Great. I do apologize. It's not a full screen because I have some issues with the PowerPoint, but thank you very much, everybody. My name is Anton Zakharov. I'm a co-founder of the marine tech startup EyeGauge. We're based out of Paris, France. And with EyeGauge, we can make any ship smart without changing anything. So just quick touch up on why we're doing this, because we look at the maritime transportation, we identify that maritime is not like other industries, and they're quite late into digitalization. What we see, about 85% of the decisions are still based on manual reports. About 67% of ship owners think this data is not available, and unfortunately, only about 15% of merchant ships are actually digitalized. But we believe that the road to decarbonization lies through digitalization. We can see those figures that have been set by IMO and regulations, and to move towards them through the recent studies and reports, we can see those figures can be achieved at 76%. They can be achieved through digitalization and all these various solution optimizations, routing and half-fall detection. They can be achieved through digitalization as well. But what we see, the actual process of digitalization, they're still painful. Why? Because analog machinery is still present on even recent builds. There's a lot of equipment that located on board, they're locked by vendors. The interfaces are not accessible, and data is still not accessible by ship owners. But the solutions that do exist on the market, they're very costly, quite complex to implement in most of the cases. Well, that's why we created the simplest solution for ship digitalization that collects high quality and high frequency data from all analog and digital equipment on board in a contactless and non-invasive way. So we collect all this data, and this data is processed and sent in a cloud or Sjur on premise, and could be, of course, visualized or integrated in the third-party platforms, of course, like StratumFive. So what's it all about? It's about unified ship digitalization platform. It's about getting all the data which is located on board of machinery and equipment. It's about fuel consumption, main engine performance condition, auxiliary agent, AMS tanks, cargo monitoring, you name it. There's some advantages of our solution. We decide to make it as easy as possible and universally compatible with any equipment on board of the ship. Non-invasive can be easily installed. Installed is quite affordable. And of course, if you compare to the existing players on the market, whether it's equipment manufacturer, automation specialists, sensor manufacturers. We can talk about those, but we decided to make it easy and more affordable than there is. So it's about unified ship digitalization platform. You can call it digital twin for machinery and equipment that collects automatically 24/7 hours a day all information from on board of the ship, giving you a full 360-degree view of entire vessels. And of course, from our side, we can provide a set of default dashboard to give you a view of your assets at sea. Some of the use cases we address, that's quite important. It's a field digitalization gap for your fleet operation. For those companies that already implemented some digitalization solutions out to log, and we can help to unify these operations of owned and chartered ships to connect this legacy equipment with modern OT IT systems and analytics platforms to integrate it, whether it's on board, in the cloud, or ashore. And to highlight the recent use case that we have with our current customer, which is MC Shipping, subsidiary of Mitsubishi Corporation. It's about decarbonization and fuel reduction, and of course we decided to look in this long-time relationship about charter party compliance, about the speed and consumption figures, and by providing the full transparency on the ship performance in real-time ship performance and consumption, the results, the claims being avoided, of course, and the main part, the fuel was safe, and the company is on a path to achieve the decarbonization targets. Another interesting use case with our current customers, so Aramco, it's about sustainable digitalization on the existing fleet. Here we're working on this project with our partner, and at this particular case, this is 40 years old offshore support vessel where we implemented condition monitoring and anomaly detected, and in the results the KPI has been achieved. But most importantly, with us, with EyeGauge, any vessel of any type and age can become smart, and we can prove that. Of course, I can talk about the different use cases that is kind of particular, but it's quite important about the safety of the ship and etc. But what I'm trying to say that there's a ways to get the data, and there's a various use cases can be applicable for different players. And we young companies might mention we're a startup, but we have a track record and help from the industry networks by reputable companies, as you see. And if you have any questions, please, and we would like to get you on board and talk about more digitalization. This is me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anton, thank you for so challenging timekeeping on this one, but we're doing really well. We're running a little bit ahead of time, so thank you very much for that indeed. And just think about, how excited should shipping be when we can take such simple steps and get so much benefits out of digitizing like I said, digitizing some of the documentation that we complete, a solution such as yours, where we can actually get then digital signals from more conventional sort of pieces of equipment. And it's we should be really excited about it. And with the emissions challenges that we've got, facing the industry, and the performance challenges we have, and the shift to the move to decarbonize, which at the moment, when we're talking about different fuels, the operational measures is the way forward right now. That is something that we can do right now. We don't need to wait for new technologies or new fuels or anything else. So I think the industry should be very excited about this capability of generating more data that we can apply to the problems of performance. So thank you very much for that. Thank you to that panel. Again, the Q&A is open if anybody wants to ask a question. If anybody wants to link to any of the presenters that we've seen, please just pop us a note and we'll do that. So right now, we're going to go take it up a notch. We've gone with the conventional, the analog and converting and documentation, which I said, I think is very exciting. It's pretty simple stuff, really. It's not new. And now I don't know, I'm just going to see whether we've got, is ScanReach out there? Have we got them?
Hi there, my name is Arild Sæle and I'm the CEO and the founder of ScanReach. Back in 2000 I had this crazy idea of transporting data wireless in steel environment such as a ship is. And now, 2022, my dream has become a reality. And we have designed what we call OWC, Onboard Wireless Connectivity. So what is OWC? OWC is a short form for Onboard Wireless Connectivity, which is our wireless mesh network designed for industries where normal wireless technology will not work. The network consists of multiple radio devices transmitting data between each unit, forming the mesh network. To this, you can add almost any sensor you would like. Temperature sensors, fuel meter, compressor data, personnel on board by wearing a wearable. The potential is huge for our technology. No cables, no fuss. And the best part, you can even do the installation yourself. And that is smart. So, who should use OWC? We like to say that our OWC network is a technologic enabler or innovation platform, if you like, giving the industry a blank canvas to fill in their own use cases. Our current technology will enable you to gather almost any type of sensor data. If you have equipment on board with, for example, Modbus, we can start collecting data for you already today, making any equipment wireless. Forget cabling up your stuff and start harvesting data wireless instead. We can easily harvest data from Bluetooth devices as well. Easy reporting for sensor data, preventive maintenance, reduction in manual labor, the possibilities are limitless. And best of all, the solution is not pricey. So, let me highlight some of the benefits of our OWC. We have developed a product named Connect Fuel. Connect Fuel gives you an instant fuel consumption on the bridge. When you know your consumption, you can optimize your voyage with your skills for a more efficient way of sailing. By that, you can save money and reduce emission, and that is what I call a win-win situation. Temperature and humidity monitoring or cargo condition monitoring is another solution provided from us, where you easily set out Bluetooth sensors monitoring the conditions and get everything in one nice desktop view. You can even also add thresholds for alarms. And then we have Connect POB for people on board control, counting and muster station, easy search and rescue operation in distress situations, gangway and walk to work solution for easy embark and disembarking of people. There is really an ocean of opportunities with our special made for steel environment solution, Onboard Wireless Connectivity. So, let's get in touch and see if we can be of any assistance for your next innovation. Thank you.
Now we've got this, we've done our logbook journey, we've done statement of facts, we've done taking analog to digital. We've now got the mesh system of. It's almost like we planned this and thought about it the way that it works. So now we're gonna get some of those sensors which we want to connect, the value-added sensors that we want to connect to performance. And I know we've got Nadine from TXMarine, and I'm going to ask her to make her presentation. Hi Nadine, welcome to it. Welcome to the Podium5.
Hi Mike. Hi Mike, thanks to invite me to join this great event and to be a member of the StratumFive.
Yeah, we've still got that. We've got the recording going, haven't we? But anyway, yes, so we'll move swiftly on from there.
Okay. So I start the instructions. So my name is Nadine Paschen. I am the owner with my father together from the company TXMarine Messsysteme GmbH. And we are located 30 kilometers north of Hamburg. And we are mainly focused in engine performance monitoring systems. So the previously companies already told you about software solutions. So we are the provider for measurement solutions. So our main focus is measurement equipment and around the engine, and there we can support you. I will share my screen right now. Hope you can see it. Yes. Our mainly focus is the engine performance monitoring, and here we have several equipment which we can support you. For example, it's a shaft power meter and also cylinder pressure measurement systems. But we are working together also with several corporate partners to support you in the best way. So we have also performance software. Here we are working together also with a Stratum or Podium partner Bjoern together. We have also flow measurement, especially at the moment it comes more and more in focus that we can support you with mass flow meters. We have portable emission measurement systems. We can support you also with service to analyze your combustion process, so for example, and we have different kind of condition monitoring systems. So our company, as I told you already, is a focus engine performance monitoring. And here we have two main products. One is a product which can be installed on the shaft of your engine, is the shaft power meter, where you can measure then the torque, shaft RPM, and then calculate the shaft power. And then we have a portable device for cylinder pressure measurement, so you can analyze your combustion process and check if everything go well with your engine or not. This is our solution. It calls Torx meter MK2 shaft power meter. And here we have a very simple solution, which can also be installed by ship's crew in a short time. So we clamp two magnetic belts around the shaft. Then we have two sensors on each side, which are connected to a box. It calls MWE box, and there the data will be calculated, and the calculated data will be then sent to a display. And also here we have communication interfaces. So we have old school communication interfaces, 4 to 20 milliamp output, but we have also the communication interface RS485, and here we send an NMEA 183 protocol. So it's easy to integrate this protocol and the readings to your automatic AMS system and also to the performance monitoring systems. In addition, we can offer also Modbus solutions. There we are working together also with cooperative partners. And the other product, the cylinder pressure measurement, is a PMI MK2. This is a portable system for measurement cylinder pressure. So here you don't need a TDC sensor because the software automatically calculate this TDC, and then you can have easily a report and also can send these data out to your superintendent on board so that they can also analyze the data further. So, and here, what I told you already, we have also performance software and hardware solutions, but there you already get a lot of information so far, especially also for EyeGauge and later on, I think also from Vineland. And here we have also fuel measurement. So we can offer you different kind of measurement principles for flow measurement. But so far, the most important are the Kougellis mass flow meter. And here we can offer you different types from different kind of manufacturer. So this is for the moment and very short instruction of our company and our solutions, which we can provide. So I think I can handle over again to Mike.
Thank you so much, Nadine. That was a lot in a very short time. So
Yeah, sorry.
no, it's a great presentation. We set the challenge to all of the connected community. You say you've got 5 minutes to make your pitch, and I think I think it just helps us continue that thread of development of this digital journey. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you also.
Thank you. So now we'd like to move on to another provider in a similar space, and we have Kyma to present. I believe it's that Sjur. Is that how we pronounce that? Sjur Clementsen.
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Welcome, Sjur.
Thank you. I try to share my screen. Can you see it now? Hello?
It's on the way, I think. Yes, we can see it.
Okay, good. Yeah, Analogue Norway is what I'm representing, previous Kyma. We are doing, of course, the shaft power meter production, the sensor part of it in Bergen, Norway. We have more than 7,000 of our systems up running on sailing vessels as we speak today. Our shaft power meter is based on a strain gauge technology, and we have a continuous measurement of shaft power, torque, thrust, RPM, and accumulated values from this system. This has been delivered for many years, as I mentioned, and the system is, so this torque meter was nice to have before. Today it's more common to put it on board, EMO regulations and so on, so it's more normal or standard to have it on board the vessel. Going from the shaft power meter as a simple instrument, Kyma are also having ship performance systems in different levels. Kyma Delfini is a system to measure how the vessel is performing, making automatically noon reports, voyage reports, and so on, what we have been discussing earlier today or being presented for. A system has a lot of different modules, meaning that some clients wants to have a simplified only noon voyage reporting, and other wants to have analytic part of the system to analyze the performance, ship speed loss, charted part module, MRV modules, and so forth. So there's a lot of build-ons to the system. Typical, the Kyma Delfini layout is that you have a shaft power meter either from Kyma or one of our competitors. We normally install a data logger to connect to the AMS system. We can hardwire to a lot of different instruments. All this is put into our display unit, and of course we have a cloud-based system, either API or our own online system there, where you have all reports, everything available. A typical onboard display unit is like this. You have the power calculated from RPM and torque. You have thrust measurement as an option. And then you have maintenance in specific fuel consumption, and you have the slip on the propeller, you have the maintenance in MCR, you have the propulsion efficiency, you have the environmental information as CO2, SO2. All this is part of the system, depending on what level our clients wants to go for. These systems can, as I mentioned, send all this information through the API or solution or directly to the online Kyma solution, and on that part you can download everything from your office. We are logging all instruments normally every second, and we have tested the system with up to 2,500 different tags working perfectly. But what we normally see on board a vessel is typical 20 to 40 signals. Of course, an LNG vessel might have 300, 400 signals, but the typical bulk vessel, container vessel would look for 20 to 30 signals maximum. We have a lot of KPI monitoring and analyzing of the systems. The Kyma shaft power meter and of course our competitors too have faced this sharply, the EMO regulation for the regulation of the CO2 reduction and limiting the power on the main engine. So of course we have now developed also our Kyma Challinor solution. Simplified, we use the existing sharp power meter. We have to install a display unit on the bridge. We have to install a buzzer and a logging of all data as soon as you are above the limit, because this has to be reported in. And it's tamper-proof. Full engine power is always available with this system according to EACS, meaning that in an emergency, you have the possibility to actually have the 100% of the power for the main engine. This is just a typical layout of the system. As you see, you have a sharp power meter. Normally, you put a display unit in the engine control room, but according to the EACS system, we need to have a control unit in the wheelhouse, a buzzer, and of course, logging of all data when you are above this percentage of the limitation for the main engine. So briefly, this is the Kyma system and how we are doing it. Later on, I think my colleague from Denmark, Per Wilhelmus, will talk a little bit more about the API and the cloud solution and how they are sorting out that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sjur. And that sort of that brings us to a nice and almost miraculously on time. I'm not quite sure how that happened, but we've managed to get there. So thank you very much for that contribution. And you're absolutely right. When we're going to take a short break now of about 30 minutes, we'll come back on the hour, and we will move on to the data collection, the centralization. Well, we're going to move on to an environmental module first of all, and talk about how we see data being applied to specific environmental issues, which of course is very much the topic of the moment. And then we'll move, as you said, we'll move on to the connectivity and cloud solutions and getting the data back to us where we can work our magic with it. So, okay, so thank you very much to everybody. We'll be back in about 30 minutes, or on the hour anyway, 35 minutes, and we'll look forward to rejoining then. So yeah, don't be late, look forward to it. Thank you very much. Right, welcome back everyone. We'd like to resume with I don't know if we've had some Q&A, and I'm just looking to see whether Anton is still with us, because the question is actually for him directly. I think Anton's left the building, but we'll forward that question to him when the time comes. So welcome back. This morning we've explored, well, we demonstrated the Podium platform, and we've explored the digitalization journey from the manual processes and turning those digital, and then we had a focus on the development of IoT on the ship, and then power and fuel consumption from TXMarine and from Kyma, Danelec now. So this afternoon we're going to focus, develop more of those systems. So we've addressed the fuel side somewhat. Now there's another side to fuel, of course, the way that oils are handled, burned, consumed, and what happens there. So we've got an environmental segment which we want to explore before moving on to data collection and data transmission, and then wrapping up with a little bit of a Q&A session. Looks like, so we've got the time now to announce a new member of our connected community. In fact, we haven't announced it publicly yet. So it's real welcome to SeaArctos and Michael Kougellis, their CEO. And Michael's going to explain to us why this is his solution is an exciting addition to the Podium5 environment. Michael, take it away.
Okay, you mentioned, Mike, very exciting times, and you're correct. This is exciting stuff, but it also comes at a time when there's a lot of issues at the moment around the world regarding environmental issues. I mean, you mentioned before what's happening. I mean, you didn't mention, I'll mention it now, but in the UK with Just Stop Oil, for example, which are causing all kinds of havoc all over London. Just to digress a bit, I joined a forum of maritime shipping lawyers last week in London, where I was surprised to hear the title was Decarbonisation and Environmental Risk, to hear that a major oil company that we all know very well is being sued, along with the directors, for not meeting its emissions targets that they themselves set. So this environmental group in the United States is using local environmental laws to sue the directors of this well-known oil company for not meeting the emissions targets that they themselves have set. And we understand that will move over to the common law system, and the common law can develop in a way that even the places in the United Kingdom, the law can change so much that we can see this sort of environmental litigation taking place. So yes, it is exciting. It's very important that we're monitoring our emissions. And what we're bringing to the table here is something that can do that. Let me give you a bit of history of SeaArctos firstly. We started in 2018. It was something conceived by maritime stakeholders. So it was actually the ship owners themselves who came together and said, okay, we want to come together. We want to be able to monitor. This is when we had the sulfur compliance. We want to be able to demonstrate that we're actually complying with the new sulfur regulations, the SECO regulations. And these particular group of owners didn't feel that scrubbers were the solution for them or for the marine environment. So they got a backing from a lot of the other major owners, operators, traders, and charterers, and has since been engaged in 20,000 hours of real-time sea trials of this device that has been developed. It was developed in Cornell together with engineers and other professionals. So we have a prototype, and we've scaled up the program. So we've reached the point now where we have the device ready. We're rolling it out. 20,000 hours of sea trials. What did we achieve? What did we want to achieve? We wanted to achieve a low-cost, independent, self-powered, carbon-neutral sensing device that could be quickly installed, is resilient to harsh conditions, and could indicatively indicate when we switch fuels. So before entering the SECO zone, and more importantly, after, because as we know, that's the place where regulators and others don't have the control, because once the ship leaves, it sets off. It's very difficult to monitor whether she switched. So yes, we reached that point. What's really exciting about the technology is we've reached the point now where we're doing a CO2 and CH4 slip readings. That's for us very exciting. We're working with a number of LNG owners and charterers together with their initiative to methane abatement initiative. And we're working with them for this device, which I'll come to shortly. I'll show you the device. I won't show you the words. Now, this is the device, which is very exciting for us. As you can see, it's a small device. It's a shoebox size. It's located on the ship stack. So it gives us hourly exhaust sampling and data transmission, independent third-party tamper-proof device, importantly. It's dedicated secure spoof-proof position transmission. It installs in around 45 minutes. And as you can see, it's done by the ship staff. So the ship themselves, the crew, can actually install this device. It comes almost like Kia style, in a box, ready to go. Everything's available for you. You just put it on the ship within 45 minutes. So no delay, nothing. I mean, that's the beauty of this particular device. Obviously, it's carbon neutral because it's using the vessel's waste heat there to power itself up. Importantly, the device also samples exhaust temperature, pressure, CO2 percentage, and humidity. Zero cost to the owner of the satellite communication. It's got nothing. It's completely independent. It installs with, as you can see, with no cutting or cable or hot work required. Independent, secure global data channel. API for external system data interface. Obviously, this is the ideal forum for this. And voyage-centric resolution for reporting of greenhouse gas emissions footprint. And here we go. This is the way we see Podium and ourselves being involved in the community, joining your community by providing that information to this community. The information that comes from the sulfur switch, carbon, carbon, CO2, and methane. I mean, we believe that this would be an ideal opportunity for us and for you to be able to benefit by plugging us into your system. this is our dashboard. I won't go into too much detail, but as you can see, you see the transit of the vessel. You see when we entered the echo zones and all the technical specifications there. As Mike said, I won't bore you with that. But if you want to see that further, we can do that. I think we can plug straight into that system anyway. So why is it important? I think we need to understand the issues. The UK and US, this is important too. The UA and UK Coast Guard authorities inspect around 10% of the vessels calling to their ports per year for emissions compliance. So they themselves admit it's impossible to monitor all the shipping that goes through their ports. So this kind of technology would be obviously very interesting to Port State Control and other parties who are supporting us for this. Obviously, as we know, vessels failing to switch fuels at a designated boundary expose the populations to major health risks. It goes back to what I said earlier regarding the oil company, which advertises green credentials by saying that it would set certain emission standards and meet those standards. Well, you know, will we find a situation where when we go into a port, the vessel is burning high sulfur fuel oil and it's then sued by one of the land-based environmental groups? Independent fuel switch monitoring delivers enhanced dynamic reporting for ESG reports across the marine value chain. Obviously, it's very important for our ESG requirements for all of us in the shipping industry. Independent emissions monitoring proves vessels are complying with the regulations and not avoiding them. And this is going to become very important for the shipping industry, I believe, going forward, to prove that actually we are committed to reducing greenhouse gas emissions. I think it's great. Okay, look at the last one. And this is the big deal going forward. I mean, if we think about it, if we just take sulfur, on the 1st of January 2025, the SECA zone will be enforced in the Mediterranean. So all of a sudden we have this huge footprint, as you can see, globally, where the SECA zone is extended. And it's very important that those who wish to conform with the regulations from those who do not wish to exceed them, as we say there. But I'm not sure if you can see the number there, but we estimate the estimated annual SECA transits to be 791,000 on the 1st of January 2025. So we see a great value in this device. We're very excited, as you can see. I'm very excited, and we believe that this is the ideal forum for us and a community for us to connect. And we look forward to working with you and your community, Mike. Thank you. Hopefully, I've got 5 minutes in there.
I think you did better than 5 minutes, actually. And I think clearly everything around fuel, I think everybody in the industry knows and expects that the regulation around fuel and fuel use will be tightened. And I think obviously arguments around LNG as a transition fuel. So the LNG, the methane slip. So that's going to be a massive thing. And I think, of course, when we look at the reporting, the data collection system, the MRV, whether it be EU or UK, then at the moment, it's rather an imprecise way of measuring what's consumed and what's emitted. And so obviously, as the regulations tighten and perhaps there's a market for carbon, then actually these more precise measurements are going to be essential. And I think the other part of it, of course, is I like the ease of the solution, the ease of installation. Digitalisation made easy has been one of the threads that's run through this whole afternoon. And so, well, all I can say is welcome to the community. Welcome to Digitalisation Made Easy. That's what we want to hear. We like smart solutions within the community, and we're great advocates for it. So thank you very much, Michael. That's if we get any more questions for you, we'll bring those forward to you. Thank you very much. But now we're going to get to our next panel, and our next panel is really having constructed that Internet of Things on board the ship, having facilitated that with the application of wireless technologies and then optical technologies for all of that, having digitalized all of these things, the next thing is about gathering data, centralizing it, ready for transmission ashore. And so first up, I'd like to I invite Per Vilmos from Danelec to make his presentation on how Danelec views the data collection and centralization on board. Thank you very much. Over to you, Per.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for giving me my 5 minutes of fame here. Let me share my screen. There you go. All right, I assume you can see my screen. I'm going to pick a little bit up where my colleague from Norway, Sjur, he left it with the Kyma application. Because at Danelec, we have three main business lines. One is the IoT infrastructure, which is called Danelec Connect. We have the Kyma shaft power solution, which Sjur, he told you about this morning. And then we have one of our main business lines, which is the VDRs, which we have been doing for the last 25, 30 years. And starting from the VDR is actually one of the reasons why we entered the world of data collection. Because as you know, the nature of running or manufacturing VDRs is also to record a number of parameters that's happening on the ship in order to recreate any incident that might have happened. So we used that as a basis of starting to maybe be more progressive and more proactive with the data we collected instead of just being reactive whenever an incident has occurred. So about 5 years ago, we started what we call Danelec Connect, which means we were quite strong in navigational data, which is good. That's like everybody needs that to a certain extent when it comes to data collection. But we were missing more detailed engine room data as well. So that was one of the main reasons we acquired our friends from Kyma last year. Because as Sjur also showed you this morning, they are quite well connected in the engine room to both the shaft and the fuel, and often also the AMS system. So when we combine that, we have a pretty strong footprint in whatever data is needed for someone to use the data. We only focus on the data collection. We have a little bit of onboard performance, as Sjur told you, but in principle, we collect the data on board, we are agnostic, and then we send it back to shore for someone to further process the data. Together with Kyma now, we are present on about 10,000, 11,000 ships, so we have quite a footprint. One of the unique things about it is we have about 600 certified technicians around the world. As you can imagine, during COVID, this was a really benefit for us. We didn't have to fly people around. So we can service our customers basically anywhere they want, both in terms of normal service or installations. I can mention one of the largest single customer we have is Maersk Line. We have the whole Maersk Line as our customer, both on VDR and data collection. And another big partner of us is Inmarsat. Inmarsat have a service called Fleet Data that is run by us, our equipment and our cloud solution. They just run it as a white label. So basically what we do is once all these data is available through the sensors that you heard about earlier as well, we do collect them. We select which data we need to collect. We do some pre-processing on board to make sure that the data has a little bit more relevance in terms of aggregation of the data. We transfer them back to shore. We store them in a cloud solution, and then we allow any partner who has an agreement with the end customer and have a consent to use the data to extract the data and further process them. This could be, for instance, StratumFive. What we really focus on is that we are agnostic. I know everybody says that, but we also, pride ourselves of being agnostic because we are not connected to any of the performance companies or any other analytic companies like StratumFive. They are just a partner of ours. And we kind of can substitute any collection system there on board. As we saw earlier this morning, there has been a tendency to have a lot of proprietary collection systems. And from a ship owner's perspective, to have 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever parallel collection systems just adds to cost and complexity. So we can kind of handle all that no matter what. And then we will collect everything, aggregate it on board, send it back to shore. We have our Our solution for it is marine grade certified. It is cyber secure, and this is basically once we have installed it once, everything is controlled and modified and managed remotely. We can also, based on our own equipment, of course, manage our own VDRs. So what we do is we connect to whatever partner you will have as a ship owner. This could be StratumFive, an obvious one, but it can be anyone. So we are like in the middle here, so you can add new partners if you're a ship owner as you please. To make this easy, we collect all the data that's available, put them in the cloud. And then you, if you are from a ship owner's perspective, you tell us, all right, I like to give this chunk of data to this partner, this chunk of data to this partner, this chunk of data to this partner. And then we can change, you know, if you want to change, or there's a new regulations, and therefore you need to connect to a new kind of partner. We know that the need for data is increasing. We know that the regulations will increase as well. So we just need to stay as flexible as possible, but they all seems to be based on the same basis of data. That also means that if you have several partners in various ways, it's based on the same subset of data. It also gives a certain validity to what you do. So we are today connected to a lot of what I call asset managers. These are companies that has big installations on board. They have an interest in monitoring that and provide services around that. We are connected to a lot of these performance partners, where StratumFive is definitely one of our good partners, but there are a number of others as well. And then, of course, the ship owners themselves often would like the data as well. So in short, I see ourselves a little bit like the router you have in your house to give you Wi-Fi. You know, we are that router. We don't have the applications. You go download your Netflix as you please, but you need the router to do it. And then when you don't want Netflix anymore, you can delete it and download another application. We are like, to use a metaphor, in the same kind of business as the router. So not always very sexy, but a necessity. So thank you, Mike. That was my 5 minutes of fame.
Thank you very much, Per. Of course, Danilec's one of our longest standing collaborations, and of course, we ourselves are also agnostic in much the same way. I think that the interoperability is something that's very important, and the market will shake out as the market shakes out, as it should. So I think we're part of that. So let's say from one of our longest standing collaborations, going to move on to one of our newest, which is, so it's great to welcome Ari Marjamaa from Rolabs, and take it away.
Thanks, Mike. Good to be on. I'm going to see if I can do the critical part of sharing my screen. That's always the most exciting part. So Rolabs is a technology company owned by the Wilhelmsen Group. We have a little bit similar to Danelec, but maybe slightly different as well. We have a singular focus on provisioning vessel data to whichever use case is needed. And where we're coming from in that is basically the thinking that sort of permeates from the group ownership and the position where we're coming from. We'll see that there will be new vessels with new fuel sources and new types of fuel, new technologies that will require an element of digitalization and access to data and working them and operating them in a clever way. And we also see that there are efficiency improvements available on existing fleet, both the fleet that we manage, but also the fleet that we see other owners have. This is sort of guiding our efforts when it comes to technology development. Across both the new vessels and the existing vessels, it's quite clear that digitalization is a common theme. And I think part of the driver we see there is obviously that data is becoming more important. This is quite obvious from an owner perspective and a ship manager perspective, but even from a third-party stakeholder perspective, it's becoming more important, as exemplified with the Poseidon principles. So I think increasingly we will see that high frequency granular sensor data will be used by many more players around. And this is why we exist, to be a partner to provide that type of data. So just to maybe take a little bit of a different angle into what is it exactly that we do. One question you need to ask yourself is, what does vessel digitalization really imply? And I think the presentation from Danelek just now was quite interesting, and I'm sure that they've seen quite a lot of the same challenges that we see. Typically, what you want to do when you go towards digitalizing your vessel is you want to have the capability of connecting to any digital signal, meaning also signals that don't currently exist. So the typical use case of connecting to a flow meter or a shaft power meter or an AMS system is fine, but we also see that there's an increasing drive towards adding other data sources as well. So we have, for instance, built in a wireless network, which allows us to retrofit sensorics to basically anything across the vessel. So you can make analog pieces of equipment or processes digital in a relatively straightforward fashion as well. So it's really about connecting to any digital signal on board. The second is obviously making the data available not only on shore, but also on board the vessel in a structured, standardized format that makes it easy to work with and to put it to use, solving different types of use cases. Then obviously the data needs to be reliably available and complete, which we solve with a completely asynchronous technology, which means that we don't depend on having connectivity, and we're very robust when it comes to poor bandwidth and low sort of high latency sort of pipes whenever that is available. So the data, the most important part is that you're able to deliver data sort of when and where it's needed and as expected. I've already mentioned the harmonization and the standardization of data across vessels. Every vessel is unique, and once you connect to a piece of equipment on board, you learn that the hard way, that nothing looks the way it's supposed to, and there's a lot of work needed to make that data workable. Which is a core part of what we do really well, and we do that on the fly, making sure that the data, it has the same format wherever you would want to consume it. Obviously, similar to the viewpoint of Danelek, I think we see that data is a raw material for other analysis and other uses. So we're basically just delivering the data, the raw material, wherever the stakeholder or the user would want to have it, and however they want to work with it. Then there is one point which I think is quite important, is that none of these solutions that we're talking about now are sort of boxes. They're actually services, because this needs to be looked after, it needs to be maintained. And even if it works from the get-go, then oftentimes something will happen and changes will occur on the vessel. Something needs to be looked after. So we are offering very clearly a service to make sure that the data is available and all the technical parts that entails are taken care of by us. So we're not a technology provider or a provider of some sort of a hardware. We're a provider of a service, making sure that the data is available and that the quality is continuously monitored and assured, so that you can build, you can make decisions upon the data, trusting that it is what it's supposed to be. And obviously everything needs to be cyber secure, so that's the way you design your solution from the start. So that's really what you're looking for when you go out and digitalize your vessel. So to summarize sort of where we come into this, what we do is meeting all of those requirements that I had on the previous slides. We access vessel data. We solve the onboard complexity on behalf of the owners, because there is quite a lot of complexity in making this work at scale across large fleets. We make it available wherever you need it. And by that, we create flexibility for the owners, allowing them to use the data in the way that suits them the best. And then finally, we make sure that you can rely on this data and trust that it's there when you need it, and you trust that it has the necessary quality, when you start to make actual decisions and sort of build your operations on top of that data. So that's basically what we do. Again, coming back to where I began, you want to have a partner that allows you to connect to all sorts of digital signals or outputs. And over time, you will want to scale this. You will add signals, and having a scalable and flexible platform which delivers from the technology point of view, but that can also be managed as a service is really a crucial success factor for making IoT work and really getting value from the data. So that was maybe the quick introduction I wanted to give. Happy to take questions or comments if there are any.
Yeah, thanks very much, Ari. I think there is a question came in around when you talk about the integrity of the data, asking a little bit more detail about how do you actually manage that? Because of course, one of the risks is that you have rubbish in and then you have rubbish out. So how do you avoid that?
I think there are two layers to that. So one is the work that we do on the harmonization and the structuring of the data, making sure that signals that are hard to interpret when we get them are structured in a way that makes them easy to interpret and allowing for comparison across vessels, irrespective of which decade the vessel was built in, what type of equipment, or on which continent it was built. That's sort of one part of the integrity, because you need to be sure that you're comparing apples and apples. The other part is the content, so the data itself, the signal itself. And there are two steps to that. So the first is when you do the installation and you get the first data signal, we do quite a lot of work ensuring that the data that we pass through is correct. And there's a combination of the domain expertise of understanding what the data you're looking at is. We have a lot of people with marine backgrounds and that can know that they understand what they're looking at. It's not just bits and bytes from a sort of a software developer point of view. And then once you've ascertained that it's correct to begin with, maybe you've guided the owner to do replacements or to do some fixes on the sensors or calibration and so forth, then it is monitoring that quality stays the same over time. So we have built quite sophisticated algorithms to make sure that we can continuously monitor the quality of the data, and we can make amendments as it goes along. Reaching out directly to the vessel or to the OEM or whomever needs to be involved in sort of rectifying that problem. So for us, garbage in, garbage out is the absolute worst outcome. So that's what we fight for every day, not to happen, and that doesn't really create any value for anyone. So that's pointless. Yeah.
Yeah, I think from our perspective, one of the advantages of a voyage informatics platform is that idea that you can compare streams of data, and that perhaps assists in anomaly detection. But of course, the importance of server-side validation before you import it into Podium, that has a role to play in terms of making sure that the integrity of the data is suitable for what we want to do with it. So. Yeah. So I think you've answered that question. So thank you very much for that indeed, and thanks for your participation. If we get some more questions come in, we have a short session at the end where we'll try and collate all of that. So now we will move on our program, and we're still running more or less to time, which is great. So we'll move straight on to the data transmission and getting the data ashore to by whatever means so that we can have the analysis in Podium5 and apply Podium5 to it. Chris from KVH, so yeah, another early connection. Thank you, really real. Please, thanks for stepping in just there. So we'll give Challinor Maritime a few more moments to prepare.
All right, let me share my screen here. So good morning or good afternoon, good evening, depending on where everyone is from. I'm Chris Watson. I'm the VP of Marketing and Communications for KVH Industries. What I'd like to do today is just go through a couple of quick thoughts on maritime connectivity, especially as we're facing a multi-channel world. A lot of conversation about the data that's on board the ships, the sensors, the need for remote support, et cetera, but question of how do you actually then do that communication? Here at KVH, we've been providing connectivity for many years, our own network since the mid 2000s, previously with working with Inmarsat. We're just seeing an increase in demand right now. It was driven by the pandemic. We're seeing it for things like operational use, where there's an increasing demand for things like video conference, live video surveillance, as well as some low bandwidth stuff, the trickle of data that's going 24/7 off the vessels. We're also seeing demand for crew use. This was highlighted during the pandemic, but there's just generally a large data demand there for crew, morale, et cetera. And then on the smart shipping side of things, which is where we really are talking about today, a lot of IoT background things, the connected sensors, voyage data recorders, wanting to get that information off the vessel, proactive monitoring by manufacturers and service providers, and then the ability to boost that data stream to be able to handle remote service, to be able to handle high bandwidth data connectivity so that you can do things like one-to-one video conversations with augmented reality, being able to get into remote access, and a lot more enterprise-grade applications are moving out into the cloud. They're no longer just being stored on board the ship. There is the expectation of consistent, affordable, fast cloud access. So this all raises the question of how to get data on and off the vessel. A lot of times the question had always been, well, I'm just going to choose the right service for my fleet. And as we're looking at it here at KVH, we don't think that's the right question anymore. We think that that's too limiting, because the trend that we are seeing is that onboard connectivity is not going to be a single service solution. We're really moving into the world of hybrid connectivity. And in many cases, vessels already have this. It's just never been referred to it that way. If you have your primary system and a backup system, and there's some sort of least cost routing or automatic switching, that's essentially a hybrid solution, but it's getting much more involved because you have your traditional SATCOM through your geostationary satellite providers, your geo providers. You're getting cellular with 5G and LTE that have offshore towers, extended range. You've got shore-based Wi-Fi. And now we're starting to see a lot of these non-geostationary services, the LEOs and the MEOs, as well as other innovative services that are coming. And really the question is why shouldn't a fleet that is facing this dramatic need for data be able to take advantage of all of these different services? So we are taking the approach that really going forward, we should be looking at hybrid connectivity for a number of reasons. One, it's very robust. You have multiple channels that you can depend on at any given time, ensuring that your data is uninterrupted no matter where the vessel is. If it's done properly, especially if it's got intelligent automatic switching that's based on algorithms that look at more than just, is there a signal, or what signal, which service costs less, it can be very seamless. It's also very fast because it can provide access to whatever the fastest network is at any given time, whether or not that's VSAT, 5G, Wi-Fi, or some of these emerging NGSO services. It's also very convenient. In some ways, like I mentioned, traditionally there's been a couple of different antennas that have to be merged together below decks with different hardware. We're seeing the move now towards fully integrated systems. This is something that we at KVH have pioneered, and I'll touch on that in just a second. But this idea of having a single hybrid antenna that carries your primary communications, multiple channels, and that can then interface with other services. And then this idea of hybrid being intelligent, where there's built-in AI that's always looking at the optimal data stream so that you're getting the best communications at all times. So within the world of hybrid, there's a number of different trends. So for commercial vessels, satellite connectivity is still vital because you have to have that when you are offshore. It's not quite so critical when you're operating just in coastal waters or when you're in the harbor and you have access to shorter range technology. But when you are out at sea, you've got to have the SATCOM. But that technology is rapidly changing. We've got the geo satellites that have been around for a long time. We've had Inmarsat, then we moved to sort of big VSAT terminals. And then in 2007 here at KVH, we actually introduced a 60 centimeter terminal, and since then have gone all the way down to a 37 centimeter terminal. So you can have access to these geo services with a wide range of antennas on board. And now we're seeing these NGSOs. So you've got your LEOs, your low Earth orbit, your middle Earth orbit. The expectation is that these are going to add tremendous capacity for maritime usage. But a lot of these new systems are simply pipes. They're providing you with data, but nothing else. There's no critical value added services that are necessary for commercial maritime operations, or that would tie in well with, an IoT or, and data-based applications that are on board ship. So at KVH, one of the things that we've done is we've recently launched our TrackNet H series and our KVH1 hybrid network. As I mentioned, these are antennas that have 3 types of connectivity in a single dome. There's satellite, cellular, and Wi-Fi. They also support third-party integrations, whether or not it's an Iridium Certus backup or whether or not it's a new or emerging LEO or MEO solution. They can all be plugged in, and then they are all managed through the same intelligent controller. And then there's an extensive value-added service ecosystem that adds functionality above and beyond simply that data pipe. And as a result, you end up with a true hybrid design for the system, for the communications that are on board. And then using our Agile Plans 1 program, which is connectivity as a service, it eliminates the need for a CapEx expenditure up front. Our hybrid network offers global VSAT as well as built-in cellular network service in more than 150 countries. On the cellular side of things, it also offers the benefit of you being able to insert local or regional SIM cards. So if you're operating in a particular area and you're going to be able to get a lower price on your cellular, you can actually insert that SIM card and tell the system to focus on that when looking at using cellular data. And as I mentioned, everything is then handled through automatic switching. It's looking at not just service availability or service costs, but also the quality of the data transfer. It's looking at things like jitter and packet loss. We've all been in situations, we've all been at trade shows where you go to send a piece of data over your cell phone. It looks like you've got a great signal on your cell, but the data, the photo that you're trying to send goes nowhere because everybody else is using that exact same network. The automatic and intelligent switching actually recognizes that, doesn't try to force the data through, but switches over to a different channel. You can also choose to manually switch to one, and then the system is constantly assessing the quality and availability. And then, as I mentioned, everything can then be done through Agile Plans 1, which is a way of bringing the system on board, connectivity as a service. So there's no CapEx for the terminal that you want. Includes the airtime, the monthly airtime plan, subsidized shipping, and subsidized installation in ports around the globe. And it's month to month, so there's no long-term commitment, which gives you optimal flexibility in terms of if you are going to be putting a boat in cold storage for a while, or if you're adding new vessels to your fleet. The whole idea is to eliminate the headaches and the hassles. So to just wrap up, looking at that hybrid connectivity as it applies, as you're looking at getting data on and off the vessel, being able to support IoT, being able to have manufacturers and service providers that are providing remote access, remote service, remote support. The flexibility of a hybrid solution offers cost savings and efficiency. It offers optimal communications at all time. You can get an end-to-end solution that brings everything together so that it's very easy to service, to set up, to deploy. That hybrid connectivity also should and could include multi-layered cybersecurity, as well as other flexibility in terms of integration with onboard systems to support the connected ship. For the crew that's on board, there are ways to provide content, internet access, calling, movies, news, what have you. And wherever you're looking when it comes to connectivity, you want to be looking for that global service and support for peace of mind. So, and that's basically what I wanted to just touch on. I think we're very excited about the concept of hybrid. I think a lot of other companies are moving in this direction as well. And I would just encourage you to take a look at that. And if you have any questions, please let me know. I'll be happy to help out, and hope that helps.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Chris. And I think we were planning to have Challinor Maritime present as well, but I think it's the risks of live broadcasting, I guess. We've lost a couple of participants as we've gone on, but we were planning a Q&A session at this particular time, and happily. We've got a few questions, and a couple of them are directed at you, so that's rather useful. So I think you've partially answered this in your presentation, but the question coming in, is there an increased cost, same cost, or decreased cost associated with hybrid connectivity? So that's one question. And then the second part of that is, can the built-in AI favor the lower cost connections when they're available, if that is the user's preference, or can they favor the fastest connection at that time, if that's the preference?
Great questions. So the way we have ours set up with hybrid, it's you get a single invoice, a single airtime subscription, and your choice is with us. You would choose your SATCOM connectivity through our global HTS network. So you would have that, and then you'd have the option of activating our global cellular, which is just be an additional $99 a month. But that's not mandatory. If a fleet prefers to use their own SIM cards, they absolutely can. And that SIM connection that comes through the user supplied SIM works exactly the same way through the user AI. So they can choose which one. Right now, the system is set up in terms of being able to manage. You can be on automatic, where it's going to look for the optimal connection at any time, or you can manually select a particular system, so that if the vessel is going to be in harbor and you've got a local SIM and that's going to be very fast and it's going to be very affordable, someone right on board the ship can go into the KVH Manager application and simply choose to lock onto that SIM card, and it will stay there until they choose to switch back to automatic or something else. At the moment, there isn't the parameter of saying always favor the lowest cost. We do take cost into account, so that basically, if you think about it, if you're in port and you've logged into a Wi-Fi network, it will always look for the Wi-Fi first, then it would go to the cellular, then it would go to the SATCOM. But like I said, there might be some cases where the Wi-Fi or the cellular connection is completely overwhelmed, and the system would then say, you still need to get your data off. So we're temporarily going to switch over to satellite and then switch back as soon as we see that one of the other networks has cleared up.
Great. So it seems your presentation stimulated a few questions here. So the next one is, can KVH solutions provide workarounds for the typical satellite data gaps in the South China Sea, for example?
I'd have to take a look at the specific maps, but that's the beauty of the hybrid system, where there are instances, for example, where our VSAT solution, our VSAT coverage, as I showed in that map, there are some gaps. With the KU band satellites, we are working with our partner Intelsat on the satellites. They are going to be filling in some of those gaps. But the beauty of the system is that in those instances where you are passing through a gap, or if you've got a smaller antenna that isn't looking straight up, so you're passing through a keyhole, you could have an additional system on board, and the system will automatically switch over to that. Iridium Certus is a perfect example. A large portion of our commercial customers choose to have our hybrid or VSAT only systems on board, plus an Iridium Certus, just to have as a backup. I think we're going to see the move towards NGSOs like Starlink and other services being able to be added in there, so that when you do face that kind of gap, say in the VSAT coverage, it will automatically switch over and provide coverage using the service that does have it, and then switch back to the preferred service afterwards.
Well, thank you very much for that answer. I get to give you a rest now, because I've got a question for somebody else. Adrian, are you still out there? I've got a question. You can indicate whether you can answer it or not. It was about electronic logbooks and electronic records. Can digital deck logs or digital port statements, or FACSAT for that matter, be shared post-voyage with third parties such as Fleet Weather for claims purposes? He says in the past he's been physically mailed reams of paper.
Yes, I am still here. And the simple answer to that one is yes, it can be shared post-voyage with whomever you wish to.
I guess one of the questions about that is, I suppose, is around the digital signatures, whether it be a logbook record or how would you know that record's not been tampered with? Okay,
if it's come from Raytheon, then their data, if you're taking it from their system, it's guaranteed to be original and unchanged, because they use cryptographic blockchain technology on it. If it's come from our system, then there are two ways in which you can validate the statement of facts as being exact. One is if it's got the original, if it's got a digital signature on there, we can validate for you that the records have not been tampered with since the point that they were signed. Now, there are events that happen after the agent and the master sign the statement of facts when they're putting documents on board, because you may well wish to record transit of the outbound sea passage, possibly through locks, possibly through use of pilots on the outbound. That won't be logged as signed because it happens after the signing event. But those events are not normally part of a lay time calculation, which generally, they're like, I'm never saying never in shipping, because I'm sure that if I do, somebody will immediately slap me down and say, you've got an example where this doesn't happen. But it is rare for events after documents are on board to be taken into account with calculating the lay time. So ideally, you would use our platform to share the statement of facts, and then people are guaranteed that it cannot have been amended. It's only if you extract the data from our platform and share it, then we cannot physically guarantee that people have not amended the document, because it's outside our control. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, well, thanks for that answer. I mean, certainly we would expect to see a larger digital record component of that kind of performance assessment and handling going forward. But I think there will still be some, some fat fingering and manual handling of some of the paperwork, I'm sure.
We're definitely trying to avoid that fat fingering, because that introduces errors. It introduces typographic errors, and it just slows the whole process down. It's as easy as sending one email to your counterpart to get them on board our platform, and then they can share the documents that they're entitled to. And they only see those documents that they are entitled to.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for taking that question, Adrian. And that really, I don't have any other questions coming onto the Q&A at the moment. So that brings us to the end of this webinar. So I'm going to, I've got a few thank yous to say, really. Thank you to the StratumFive team that put all this together. They've worked really hard. Thank you to all the panelists for their time and the presentation. Thank you to you for attending and staying with us through this. Your feedback is welcome. So please feedback to us what you liked, what you didn't like, and we look forward to the next webinar. And then we've demonstrated through this, I hope, the digital journey that leads through the development of better measurement metrics from the ships, the power and fuel measurements, the environmental components, data collation and collection on board through partners such as Danelec and Rollouts and Vineland, who sadly couldn't be with us, and then data transmission, really stimulating conversation with KVH there at the end. So then you'll understand why we say stay connected and safe. Thank you very much to everyone. See you again.